Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about how Bruce Lee would do in modern day MMA slash UFC. Now, if you don't know who Bruce Lee is as a fight fan, anyways, I'm joking. Long story short, he is a 1960s film star. He starred in a couple movies because he did die pretty young, but those movies were pretty influential. If you think of your favorite fighting games like Mortal Kombat, or if you think of your favorite action films like John Wick or some Tarantino films, as in like Kill Bill, those movies were heavily influenced by Bruce Lee. But also in the MMA world, Bruce Lee was underratedly very influential to modern day MMA. Now, for example, your favorite fighter probably loves Bruce Lee, or they hold Bruce Lee in a high regard. Or also right here, you can see Bruce Lee wearing modern day MMA gloves in his 1960s film. I forgot which film it was. Just get rid of the fingertips. Those are basically MMA gloves, like 2025 MMA gloves. Like, you just look at them. Now, also, lastly, the most importantly, his martial arts he invented, which is Jeet Kune Do, philosophically is basically the same as modern day MMA. Like, his martial arts, basically the premise of it is get a bunch of martial arts, take out all the bad things that don't work in those martial arts, or that he thought that didn't work, and only include the things that are effective into one martial art, Jeet Kune Do, like I said. And that's basically modern day MMA. Like, you take BJJ, it's not the same as MMA BJJ. There's a lot of things you can't do in the octagon that you can't get away with in BJJ because you're open to getting elbowed. Or for example, you can box offensively in the octagon, but defensively you're very open to box, as in you're very open to get leg kicked, or you're very open to getting head kicked or getting taken down. Or like, for example, wrestling takedowns are adapted into MMA, as in get your head a little bit more lower because you can get guillotined. Or like, for example, or you go striking into the wrestling, for an easy entry, or like say Muay Thai, your stance, it's very, you really can't get away with doing the MMA stance, the Muay Thai stance in MMA, because you're easily able to get taken down. So like I said, there's a lot of things that, a lot of combat sports that are adapted into MMA. So it's kind of very similar to Jeet Kune Do, as in the take away all the bad things and only include the good things into MMA. So it's Jeet Kune Do and MMA are very similar philosophically. Now, there's two versions of Bruce Lee. There's the Legends Bruce Lee, and then there's the Skeptical Bruce Lee. The Legends Bruce Lee is basically you take all the stories of people that knew Bruce Lee when he was alive, like his mentors, his students, his his sparring partners, his family members. Like, when they say he hits as hard as a heavyweight, or that he was much better than like these high level practitioners of judo or jiu-jitsu. They say that he was so much quicker than these guys, or he was so much more powerful. If we were to take all that as facts, Bruce Lee legit was that guy. Like, he was literally a superhuman on Earth. He legit was the guy that he was in his movies. And then the skeptical version of Bruce Lee is basically the people that say that he was only a film star. He never partook in in tournaments, or there's very little evidence of him sparring. That he was pretty much a fraud. Now, you can't fault those people because it is pretty, if you're going to be skeptical, it's very hard to assume that, it's very hard to say that Bruce Lee legit was a superhuman. So it's you can't really fault those people. But at the same time, you can't really write off all these stories of Bruce Lee of being this incredible human being. Like, it's very hard. Like, these are a bunch of people that have the exact same level of, like, say of Bruce Lee. So, it's kind of hard to write all of those people off. Now, what I do think is, those people kind of they do love Bruce Lee, and he passed away, so they honor him. So what they do is they kind of fluff up those stories. They kind of, make Bruce Lee seem a little bit more better than he really was, if I'm gonna be honest. But I do think Bruce Lee was a little bit more human than people make him out to be. That's what I think. I do think those people were kind of like, making it look like Bruce Lee was a little bit better than he really was. But I do think Bruce Lee is in the middle between those two versions. I'm not slightly leaning a little bit towards the Legends version, Bruce Lee. But I do think Bruce Lee was legit. I just don't think he was that amazing. Now, to go back to the original argument, Bruce Lee is a product of his time, as in the 1960s was still full of mysticism of kung fu. A lot of people still believe, like, a lot of people did believe that a lot of the stuff that you did in kung fu legit worked in the fight, which we all know a lot of that stuff got exposed in like the 90s when the UFC came around. And but also, he's from the 1960s, as in general, athletes in general were not as good as modern day athletes. You take a boxer from the 1960s, you put him in the modern day boxing, he'll get his ass clapped. So it's very unfair to say, oh, Bruce Lee would do horrible in modern day MMA because he is a product of his time, like I said. So, for the sake of argument, we're gonna have a Bruce Lee who was born and raised in modern times. He grew up in MMA, and we're gonna analyze the stuff that he did do right and the stuff he did do amazingly, and see how that will translate to modern day MMA. So that's what I'm gonna be doing. So we're just gonna quickly go over his stats right here. 5'8", kind of he's not short, but on the short side of humans. Weight 138, so he was very skinny. Reach, I couldn't find his reach anywhere on Google, so I just used his UFC game stats. So yeah, so it's not incredibly small reach, but it is pretty normal for his height. So because this is gonna be a modern Bruce Lee, we can have him be like a little bit heavier because of modern day diet. But I think a modern day Bruce Lee would be smart and be like, I'll walk around at 140 and then cut down to flyweight, not bantamweight. So he'll cut down to flyweight, and that division will be slightly less harder for someone like his height. As if let's say literally Charles Johnson, who is a 5'9", he's doing very good at the UFC because of his height and reach, and he has power and speed. So Bruce Lee can literally be another Charles Johnson at flyweight. Now here is a picture of his lifting routine that I got from the internet. This is from May 27th, 1965. So these are a decent amount of sets, good amount of reps, not too heavy. But Bruce Lee himself isn't too heavy. Now, but also this is a 1960s gym routine, lifting routine. So it's not too crazy, but at the same time, Bruce Lee was never really, he never really wanted to bulk up. He was more of a performance, and that's what athletes do. We focus on performance, and lifting isn't our main suit. And what our main when it comes to like going to the gym, our main focus is explosivity. So this is very unfair to just like analyze Bruce Lee on just this lifting program. So yeah, but here it is, not too crazy. It is a good amount of different exercises, focusing on different muscles and shit, but. Yeah, here it is if you care. Alright, so we're just gonna quickly go over clips I found on his fight scenes of just submissions and a couple of moves he's done, just to see some of the things he does in his movies aren't totally fake. There's some legit moves he does that UFC fighters have done before in fighting, in matches. And you can see right here, we're gonna start off by Bruce Lee getting a guillotine choke on Chuck Norris. The posture's a bit off, He's not really trying to, get up, his back into it or anything. But this is a movie, like I said. It's gonna be, it's not gonna be totally accurate. Here you can see John Jones getting a guillotine on Machida. A little bit different, but the essence is there. Bruce Lee is showing us some intelligence of grappling. Here, this is Bruce Lee getting some sort of submission, some arm submission. I guess an Americana. This is a movie, so it's gonna be kind of not accurate. It's gonna be kind of for entertainment purposes. It's gonna be kind of goofy looking. This is Jones getting a Americana, another Jones clip, getting Americana on Vitor, getting it done. Right, boom, right there. So yeah, so it's Bruce Lee. If he gets on the ground, he can submit. He can get it down. We don't know exactly how good his ground game per se is, but his submissions, he can get a submission. So this is kind of getting a triangle choke on Kareem. It's an S grip, so it's not gonna be an actual good grip. He's gonna want to get like what they call a wrist grip instead. But his head is a little bit higher than it needs to be. He doesn't have his leg interlocking Kareem's leg for side guard, so there's that as well. And then there's another pic of Lee wearing his MMA gloves from the 1960s. So it shows that he does want to grapple in his fights. He's not scared of grappling, which is good if you want to get into an MMA fight, especially in the UFC. So there's that. So there's Lee getting a Uchimata trip, a judo trip, or a Haragoshi. I don't know. They're literally the names of these change between what position your attack is in, whatever. You know, like I think it's a Uchimata, but anyways, I think he's got his leg going in between his legs for the trip, lifting it up. So it shows he does have some grappling. And then lastly, Lee is getting a flying scissor trip, where you know you go on the ground and you interlock interlock your legs against their legs and go for the trip. Right here you can see Rufy getting a trip on a Malarkey. Really nice trip. So yeah, so it's, you know, Bruce Lee isn't he has some actual techniques in his tool set. So you know he can get it done. You know, these are movies, so it's not like, you know, oh, he can 100% get effectively use these moves if he's gonna use them. But he does have some knowledge of grappling, so that is kind of good if he's gonna want to grapple. I mean, he's gonna go into an MMA fight where it's not just striking, it's grappling. Alright, we're gonna quickly go review some of these some footage of Bruce Lee. I'm gonna link both videos in the description below. Right here is gonna be his bag work. Just to analyze a little bit. So there I already see a couple of mistakes. His feet are now there. He's very squared off. Punches don't come back to the chin. Very bad technique. He bounces with no purpose. He just bounces just to bounce, not to actually reset himself. The punches come from down here, so he's kind of leaves himself very open. So because he punches from down here and then comes back, doesn't from here. He doesn't do it like an actual traditional boxer. So that's kind of bad. He leaves himself very open. He's very quick. That's what I'll give him. Look at him. Boom, boom, boom. Very quick. I don't think I could have punched that quick. Probably, I don't know. Okay. I don't know what that part is. But anyways, very quick hands. He does have some explosivity, some power as well. You see him pushing he kind of is pushing the bag, kind of. So he's not really punching it towards that. So, you know, some points taken off because of that. I rate the whole performance, his whole bag work like a 4 out of 10, because he does show some speed, but overall technique and everything is not that great. But I do think his kicks are amazing. So we're gonna quickly go over his sparring. This is Bruce Lee, and the guy in the top is his sparring partner. I don't know who this is. Bruce Lee is the one with the white straps behind his back. So right off the bat, he already has like that Conor McGregor type of stance, and he's in southpaw, so it's very Conor McGregor-esque. Well, I guess the other way around, since, you know, Bruce Lee is from older times. Very, very amazing kick. That was beautiful. Like, jeez. Okay, so he's very stationary. He's trying to counter, that's for sure. And when you're trying to counter, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because if you want to counter, that means your opponent goes forward, and you have that, because you're stationary, you have the timing to counter, but also you make yourself very hittable by leg kicks or head kicks. Let's say, for example, Yuri, when he got head kicked by Alex, he was very stationary, so he got hit. But at the same time, when you're stationary, let's say, for example, Israel Adesanya, the way he counters, he resets, stands still, and when some guy comes towards him, he's able to slip and counter. So it's a double-edged sword. So you want to be very smart when you're stationary and trying to counter. So it does show some level of striking. You see right there, the guy comes in and he slips with a left cross. I don't know what that was, I'm gonna be honest. That was just some very amateurish moves from his opponent, his sparring partner. Bruce Lee is showing some decent technique, and there's a judo trip again. So he has judo. He seems to know how to do a judo while in sparring. So that is very nice to have if you're gonna go into an MMA fight. Crosses his legs. I don't like that. He's been crossing his legs a couple times throughout this sparring match. And sorry for the video noise that's happening. Thin walls. Yeah, they're not good to see. Wait. So the guy tries to close the distance. Bruce Lee, he's backing up little by little, inching, and then just trying to counter. He's been wanting to counter this whole time. So the guy throws a spinning back kick, and then he tries to, I think he was trying to teep. So it was just a weird interaction overall. He goes for a jab and he leans back, which is not too great. You want to go with your feet instead of your head when you're trying to get out of the way out of strikes. And then shows really quick combinations, a jab and then a kick. So he's very quick and very flexible. So that's really nice. You don't really see this type of striking in MMA because not people like only like very rarely like Conor McGregor does this type of striking. The karate. The who else? What's his name? Wonder Boy. MVP kind of does a karate stance type of striking, but it's more different. It's slightly different the way he does it. So this is more like an MVP Conor McGregor type of striking. So it does show he can have some success. That was a really quick jab. You don't really see that type of jab. The way he leans forward, so it's not that great a jab, but it's really quick. Athletically, genetically, he's very good. That's what I'll give you. And his kicks are amazing. And then they bring someone else in. I don't know who this is. Okay, so they bring another sparring partner. So this guy has a vest on, type of outfit looking thing. Okay, so he tries to come in with a kick, but Bruce Lee intercepted. Very quick hands. Dang, that was so good. Oh, bro, Bruce Lee's kicks are amazing. Bro, his striking, like I said, I'll rate it like a 3 or 4 out of 10. His kicks are a 10 out of 10. They're amazing. They're so quick. We don't know how good his kicks are if they do land. His conditioning on his shins and stuff. But from him, his legs going from point A to point B, they're so quick. They're really nice. Very quick. Someone move that. Why is that there? So then Bruce Lee's trying to just what they call it? Reset, trying to counter. Fainted with a boom. Very nice head kick. Ooh, he jabbed while what's it called, circling. So he kind of has a decent jab. He kind of does bring it down. That's the issue. He brings his jab, his hand down after he jabs. Quick kicks, bro. His kicks are so good, crazy. Boom, nice timing on the jab, but he brings it down once again. I don't like that at all. Ooh, nice counter. Great kick. I would say this is probably the same level as Conor McGregor type of striking. I'm gonna be honest. Oh my goodness, this is really good. He does have a bunch of holes in his game, of course, especially for a 1960s martial artist. But I wouldn't be surprised if Bruce Lee in his era legit was that guy. Just saying this is like the way he can I'm pretty sure he can get away with a lot of things in that era where people were still very, very primitive in their striking and their kicking and their judo, their grappling in general. So I wouldn't doubt the people that praise Bruce Lee as being really good. He legit is good. So now to wrap up this video, Bruce Lee does do really good things while sparring. From what we saw, very high level kicks. Only kicks you only see in ONE FC, but by Taiwan Chai or Rodtang and the such. These are his kicks are phenomenal. Even for that era, they still hold up to this day. They're just so quick, so agile, so very accurate. The way, and we don't know how damaging his kicks are, but they do seem like they could hurt a lot. And like I said, for his time, it's hard to believe they were lying, because for that era, it seems like Bruce Lee legit just had the upper hand when it comes to just physical attributes, as in his speed, his fast twitch muscles, his explosivity. I don't think he has as hard as a heavyweight. We're gonna be honest, but he probably has the same type of let's say transcending power where Ilia Topuria can knock out welterweight. So probably Bruce Lee can knock out lightweights or welterweights. Nah, I don't think welterweights. Just lightweights. I can see Bruce Lee being able to KO lightweights, and he does have the same level of bone density Ilia has. He has very poor footwork, very poor defense. He does stand still. That is a very bad thing. But I do think if you were to train in a proper gym, an MMA gym for years, and learn grappling, learn just ground game, how to stay and guard and stuff like that, and learn how to be defensively sound, not get hit, he will be a problem because the things he does do good, he does really good. He has cat-like reflexes, very quick. Those are stuff that you rarely see in MMA. Recently, like they're still very, like, let's be honest, MMA right now is still still a little behind when it comes to like straight up athleticism. So Bruce Lee could legit take the cake for that. Very rarely do we see like amazing strikers just let's say use that quick. Like there's probably Sean O'Malley's more of a sniper. There's who else is a great striker? We don't really see these quick strikers just be as quick as Bruce Lee. Is crazy. Now we're gonna quickly see it, go to the rankings right here. He probably beats Bruno. If not Bruno, probably Chen's. It's like a 50-50 fight where there's like, I can see Bruce Lee getting a decision win over Bruno, but Bruno can legit just end the fight with one punch. This one, okay, we're gonna be honest, this is not gonna be a striking for striking. Ramazan is gonna want to grapple, and he probably is just levels above. If Bruce Lee were to learn grappling for like, let's say he probably is like a blue belt, we're gonna be 100% honest. So if he were to be a blue belt and then go to like a brown belt, he will still probably lose to the grappling against Ramazan. So he wins this one, loses this one. He beats Charles, I do think so. I do think he could legit just be the much better kicker. He can kick his way through Charles Johnson's striking and win like that. So win this one, lose this one. This is all hypothetical. This is all hypothetical. I'm not trying to glaze Bruce Lee or anything. This is all for fun, by the way. Steve Erceg, I think Bruce Lee takes. Oh no, I literally skipped Tagir. Tagir is the same. He's literally the same thing as Ramazan. He's just grappling wins. This is probably a 50-50. No, actually, I think Bruce Lee is just. Steve Erceg does have the problems that Bruce Lee has, where he's very flat-footed and he's very stationary sometimes, and he kind of like he doesn't really. He struggles dealing with like let's say fighters that know how to circle around. But Bruce Lee, in that, like I said, he would did strike while circling. So at least he has that. While Steve Erceg is very one-dimensional. He only strikes forward and backward. So Bruce Lee has that. So maybe I got Bruce Lee beating Steve Erceg. Tim Elliott, Bruce Lee stretches the dude on the free. I feel like Asakura, that fight legit fumbled the bag, and I don't see Bruce Lee with his mentality, his how strong-willed he is. I don't see him wanting to be stupid and get subbed. So I do see him beating Tim Elliott. Asuma Amarev does the same thing as these guys. These NPC mountain fighters are whatever. Alex Perez, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know. Manel Kape, I think Manel Kape is the first one to beat Bruce Lee on the feet. I do think he's just too awkward, too flowy, too unpredictable. I think he's gonna be the first one to stop Bruce Lee on the feet and win. Maybe he chins Bruce Lee, but I don't know. But yeah, I do think Manel Kape beats Bruce Lee on the feet. Kai Kara France. Kai Kara France is a little slow, so I do think Bruce Lee is gonna speed mock this guy. So I got Bruce Lee beating Kai Kara France. I see Cesar Sara beating Bruce Lee. He's gonna be the much better grappler. I can see him holding him down for 5 rounds if he can. So yeah, I see him doing that. I don't see Bruce Lee being able to reverse because we don't know his ground game. We don't know exactly. We just saw him doing some like having hold submissions on in like movie scenes. So, but if we were to be an actual fighter, maybe he can defend Tatsuro. But on the feet, Bruce Lee beats Tatsuro. But on the ground, I see Tatsuro just being the much better grappler. So just taking down Bruce Lee and winning like that. Amir Balzi, I can see Amir being able to switch up the grappling into the striking and vice versa, and just beating Bruce Lee like that, just by making Bruce Lee think of the takedown. So I see Amir beating Bruce Lee. And then Brandon Royval, I see Brandon, because Brandon didn't want to grapple with Van, so I don't know why he didn't do that. So I wouldn't be surprised if he would do the same thing with Bruce Lee. So I see Bruce Lee as being the better striker than Brandon Royval. He probably beats Brandon Moreno as well. He probably beats both of these guys. I see him beating this guy as well. I see him getting destroyed by, I don't know if I told you though. So I see him beating both Brandon and Joshua. Bruce Lee is much bigger than Joshua, and just it has the speed. I don't see Joshua. I think Bruce Lee has the exact same level of speed as Joshua Van when it comes to striking, but because Bruce Lee is bigger and has power, I can see him beating Joshua Van. And then Alexander Pantoja, he's getting destroyed by Alexander Pantoja. I don't see Pantoja. I don't see Bruce Lee having a way to beat Pantoja at all. I see him getting submitted, as like he always does. So yeah, that's how Bruce Lee would do in the UFC if he was an actual fighter, like in 2025, actual fighter. So yeah, so there's that. He could do pretty good. He's very good. If not, he is the real deal in my opinion. So there's that. So hope you guys liked the video and goodbye.